Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone, if you enjoy this content, to please go like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Kaylee Walker on the podcast. She's coming to us from Maine. I think she's only our second guest that we've had on from Maine. Not too many competitors up there, so it'll be nice to hear another, story about from someone who's not from a place where it's bodybuilding isn't, the biggest thing. But yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey, just to discuss all things health and fitness. She's an IFBB pro, and yeah, Kaylee, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, to get things started, why don't you just first off give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you being a bodybuilder?
Yeah, so I have been or like working out since I was, I don't know, sophomore in high school probably. So that would have been like 2012, 2013-ish time. I'm 26 now, and the gym just kind of became like my outlet. I was going there like right after school and like before I did field hockey, cheering, and lacrosse. So I would like work out before practices and stuff. And it really just became like my second home, like really, really quickly. And I followed like a bunch of YouTubers at the time that were competing. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a bikini competitor someday. But I always had this thing in the back of my head that was like, I'm just a girl from like a small town in Maine. So it could never really happen. So flash forward, get to college, kind of lost interest in bodybuilding a little bit and loved CrossFit in college. So I started competing in CrossFit. I just love like competing, I guess, and I love feeling strong. So super into CrossFit at the time. I loved that I could, eat pizza and drink beer in college and still have like almost a six pack because I'm just like training so much and yeah, so that was fun, left, like, the community of it, and then basically did CrossFit. I moved to Florida thinking I was gonna pursue, like, going to Wodapalooza. I thought I wanted to, like, do CrossFit full time, and then ended up moving back to Maine. COVID hit, and then I was like, "You know what? Let's go back to bodybuilding," because I could do that with my little kettlebell there, and, I don't know, just always have loved, like, fitness, working out, it's always just been, like, my outlet for any, like there's something that I'm really happy about, I'm like, "Oh, let's go to the gym, this is gonna be a great workout." If there's something I'm really sad about, I'm like, "Oh, let's go to the gym and just, like, get over this, whatever is going on." So, yeah, and, like, once I got back into bodybuilding, I did, like, my first OCB show and then just took off from there and never haven't stopped since, so
Well, before we get into the whole bodybuilding part, I do got to ask because field hockey is a sport that I could never understand just because of the fact that being that I'm 6'3", bending over that much and just being constantly bent over. Why do people still play that sport? Because for me, I just see back problems galore for anyone that does that.
yeah, it definitely I when you're taller and choose field hockey, it definitely always kinda confuses me. Obviously, you can get sticks that are, like, longer for, I guess, your height, but, um and you gotta learn to, like, how to run properly, I guess, with the stick, but, no, I love field hockey. I actually coached it for a while too, so
I mean, I just see it on TV every once in a while when they do like the college stuff, and yeah, I mean, I guess there's a reason why you don't see any like big 6-footers playing because God, that is just. I mean, I loaded boxes for UPS for summers when I was in college, and I thought
mhm.
that was bad enough. But geez, field hockey. But it is a great sport. I mean, I am. It is a very enjoying sport to watch, and that's the only negative thing I have to say about it is like, good God, that sport must be a chiropractic's dream. You're getting a lot of clients from that, so.
Yeah, you definitely don't see too many. I mean, I can't fully speak, but, like, in my experience, I have not seen very many super tall people playing field hockey, so
Well, if you would, you'd probably just be a goalie, really, honestly, because then you wouldn't
yeah.
really have to, squat over, as much. But you started out in CrossFit. What was that experience like? Because I've interviewed, probably a few dozen CrossFitters. They're a completely different breed from a lot of the bodybuilders or just health and fitness people I like to have on. And
Mhm.
what was that experience like? And when you made the switch over to bodybuilding, what was that like adjusting to the fact that you couldn't get away with eating all that food that you were eating before and just burning it off?
That was definitely a struggle, but, um, completely different, like, in every single way. I actually, like, was talking about it this morning. It's a common topic that people ask, like, about going from CrossFit to bodybuilding, but, um, CrossFit is it's a lot of fun. I love like the community aspect of it. Like my honestly, my biggest advice to people that are like getting into sports is to do or into fitness is to do like group classes because they're very motivating. But like just the style of training is just completely different. It's like all like full body workouts every single day. Like I worked out at a box that did a lot of hero workouts, which if you're not familiar, those are like the most intense workouts and super, super challenging. So it was like I loved it so much, but I also like the more and more I thought about it, I was like, my body hurts all of the time. And there's just like no recovery. And I also think that when I was doing CrossFit, it was also like a no days off kind of mindset as well. Um, so recovery was really, really minimal, but I don't know. And like just like the movements are completely different. Like I would never choose to do a wall ball or a thruster ever again in my life. But so in that sense, like they're very, very different. But I guess like me loving competing, they're similar in that way because they're very like you it's individual and you really push yourself. Like it's I like to like set a goal for myself, whether it's for my physique or whether it's for like CrossFit reps or for a little bit I dabbled in powerlifting but realized it wasn't for me. Like I just, so very, very different. But then switching was definitely interesting from being able to be like, oh, I can eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's and just get up in the morning and do my WOD. But now having to like stay on that strict diet because I'm not doing 6 miles and running with a sandbag on my back. So
Well, and what was that like to also when you look at that CrossFit build, it doesn't really correlate that much with bodybuilding because you train a lot of muscles that aren't really, beneficial to being a bodybuilder. So what was that like just adjusting that whole new thing where you might think that, obviously you're big and strong from CrossFit, but like it doesn't translate as much as a lot of people would think it would into bodybuilding when it comes to when bodybuilding. I mean, like you're training one little tiny part of your back sometimes just to get it to pop. You have like a little tiny part of your hamstring that you might try to flare. Like it just becomes so minute and specific.
yeah, no, that's definitely a huge change. Like um I feel like the only thing that really, like, transferred over that people are always like, "Oh, where'd you get your abs from?" And I'm like, definitely, like, from my CrossFit days." But, other than that, like, yeah, you're right, like, honestly, like, you're doing a lot of the same repetitive movements in CrossFit where it's not, like, targeting, like, a specific muscle. So, definitely having to, like I mean, since I started in, like, a bodybuilding type realm. I wasn't a bodybuilder, but I like followed bodybuilding at that time. It was an easier transition, but I think if I went like strictly from like just CrossFit into bodybuilding, it would have been very like kind of a hard transition to like relearn that and like not I feel like the biggest thing is like not wanting to go overboard because it's very easy to like, oh, like I'm so used to training full body, so might as well just keep hitting it every day and keep hitting like way too many like muscle groups and yeah, so
That's a problem that I've talked to a ton of people about that deal with, especially with CrossFit, where everything's just balls to the wall, and it's training constantly too, and they don't really incorporate rest days as much as I personally think they should. But
Mhm.
just getting into bodybuilding, what were probably some, or what would you say is probably the biggest surprise that you dealt with when you really got into the sport of bodybuilding? Because the general public is so ill informed about it that there's so many myths about it that it is shocking for so many people when they really dive into it and just realize how many things they think about the sport aren't really true, and some things that they didn't know about the sport that are just kind of shocking as well.
Bodybuilding is literally like a full-time job. Like, I guess when I first got into it, I kind of didn't realize, like, how much really went into it, either, like, I was just like, "Oh, I enjoy working out all the time, and I can push myself to do cardio," but, like, I didn't really realize, like, no, the cardio is not just, like, a short WOD, it is, like, doing hours of cardio, and, like, it does take a lot more, and, having to be at the gym for, like, hours at a time, whether you, like, want to or not, really, like, there may be rest days for, like, training-wise, but there's, like, no rest days with, like, eating and having to be, like, on point with macros because like, I feel like in, like, CrossFit world, you can kind of get away with, like, just, like, eating clean or however you wanna, like and, like, being, like, a top performer, but I was never a games athlete, so maybe not top performer, but, like, with bodybuilding, it's like every single day is like to the T. And I don't know. I guess it really does. It takes a lot more like time and effort and like I don't know. And you have to be like way more like pay like attention to small details with bodybuilding. And the other thing is posing. Like, I feel like that was something that did not click with me until I was already a pro. Like, I did not realize, like, how important posing is and that posing is literally like a workout on its own. Like, just doing it for, like, a half an hour, you're, like, sweating and shaking and, like, it yeah, it makes or breaks, like, your entire package. Like, if you have the best physique on the stage, but you can't show it, it's like, you need to work on posing. Like, it's just so important.
Absolutely. And I also love talking to genetics on the podcast because everyone, when they first get started working out, always has that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And then everyone has that one body part that just drags behind. When you got into the bodybuilding phase, what was one body part that took off for you that you really don't have to worry about? And what's been one body part that you, to this day, you're just dragging behind?
Um, Probably, I don't know, my arms, like, my bicep, tricep, like, I just, like, think about my biceps growing, and I just feel like they just, like, keep getting bigger and bigger, and I
So
just
you're a
am like
gym bro at heart, basically.
yeah. I would say, yeah, definitely arms. I love training arms. I'm cutting back a little bit because that was actually my feedback at the Texas Pro that, do not let your arms get any bigger. So that was a little bit sad, but
No, then you just tell them, hey, we're moving up a division then because I'm not stopping.
no, yeah, I mean, that's always been, moving up to WPD has been something that's I've talked about and have thought about. But I do think figures is like my home. So, um, just like fine tuning like where I'm at. And then I guess something that lags is like glutes. Like the mind to muscle connection with glutes for me is just like I'm jealous of all of the bikini and wellness competitors that just like love training glutes. Like I speak to them at the gym all the time and like they're always doing their hip thrusts and I'm like, I can't do it like that. And it's never clicked with me. My glutes don't grow very fast. So yeah.
I mean, glutes, if I had a dime for every time I heard that answer, I would be a very rich man. It's just unfortunately one of those things that a lot of people do struggle with. But I mean, with figure, posing is especially hard just because you're doing the front lat spread. And for so many people that I talk to, that is like either something that you're born with or it's something that takes years and years to learn. Was that an
Mhm.
easy pose for you to learn, or is that something that took you a while to learn?
No. The lat spread is like I it's so hard. It is the most like if you're not someone that, like, is just, like, born with, like you said, it is so incredibly difficult to learn because it's, like it's very uncomfortable, like, it feels very unnatural to be in a lat spread, and, um, just, like, working with the few posing clients I've worked with, I'm just, like, every time you walk by a mirror, just, like, try a lat spread, like, and we go over different, like, techniques on, like, how to, like, feel it so we can, like, work on that, but, like, I've posted on my Instagram and stuff and I can share it with you, but like I could not even come close to doing a lat spread. And now it's like I feel like I'm just like sitting here and I'm like, oh, I'm just like doing it. It's like so natural now. But no, it was definitely a struggle.
Oh,
So
it's like riding a bike. Once you learn it, it
yeah.
becomes almost impossible to unlearn it. But what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced to them, hey, I want to give bodybuilding a try?
Um, for the most part, like it was pretty positive. I think at first, like, I don't know, like my mom has been like super supportive and has tried to come to like as many shows as possible and um my friends are usually supportive, like, my roommate's been really supportive and my boyfriend, but my dad, I remember him sending me pictures of just, like, old school, like, bodybuilders being like, "Are you sure you wanna do this?" And just, like, double checking that, like, "Is this what you really wanna look like, and is this what you wanna do?" And I'm like, "Dad, like, I just wanna give it a try. I've been thinking about it for so long, like, literally since I was, like, a little kid." So yeah, but overall, like, pretty supportive, with everything, and I don't know, I think they just trust me to make the best decision for myself, and if this is what I truly enjoy, even though they've definitely seen me, like, in lows because it does get really hard and stressful, they're supportive.
And speaking about just the lows, I mean, you're not going to be on it every single day. There's going to be days where you don't feel like doing it. And one of the things that I think differentiates bodybuilders a lot from the general public is just that willingness to get up and get started and get it done, because a lot of people just find excuses then to not work out or not maintain this. Where do you think that strength comes from for you to push through on days when you're just not feeling it?
I feel like I am just someone that's, like, very goal driven, like, if it's something that, like, I want, I'm going to do it, and I feel like I've been like that, like, my whole life, even with, like, small materialistic things, like, we talked about my dog, like, briefly before we got on here, and, like, I have been wanting, like, a Frenchie, like, my whole life, and then as soon as I was on my own, like, in my own apartment, I was like, "Oh, it's happening," like, I will literally work 3 jobs to be able to, like, afford to get a dog, like, that's all what's important to me, so, um yeah, I feel like I'm very goal oriented. I do a lot of like I am statements but before I was an IFBB pro, I wrote down like I am an IFBB pro every day. And just doing like small little things like doing like vision work and like just makes it like okay, like once I get to this goal, like all of this work I put in is like so worth it to me. So
Yeah. And let's be honest, once you start, you sign a deal with the devil where you're never going to be big enough. You're never going to be good enough. Unfortunately, that's just the case. It's just something that goes along with it. How do you deal with that body dysmorphia that comes along with the sport? Because find it hilarious. Sometimes I'm talking to some of the most in shape people on the planet and they have even worse body dysmorphia than me, but it is something that just happens. But how do you try to make it so that you just don't go crazy, especially in off season and other periods where you're not looking like you look on stage?
yeah, I actually I was listening to, someone else you interviewed recently, but it's kind of like the opposite for me, like, in season is so much harder than, like, off season, in the sense where, like, when you're in season, like, prep brain takes over like crazy, and, like, you, like, take pictures of yourself and, like, look at yourself and you're like, "Oh, I'm watery today. Oh, I'm, like, not lean enough. Like, I am 6 weeks out, like, why don't I have, like, every single line showing right now?" And it's, like, it's so in your head, but then you, like, look back at the pictures and you're like, "What are you talking about?" But, like, in the off season is I mean, if you don't reverse properly, which I've definitely done, at first it's definitely, like, really, really hard to, like, see yourself. You're like, "Oh, I was just, like, stage lean, and now I'm looking like a normal person again," and, which is nothing wrong with that, and I think that's, like, the biggest thing is, like, just having to, like, reinforce that in my head that, like, it's not healthy to be stage lean all the time, and, like, I need to, have a time in my life where I'm just enjoying life. Like, yes, I stay on plan for the most part, but, like, I also am going to, like, have fun. Like, I'm in my 20s and having a life and a social life and, is also important to me. So, like, not being stage lean is just, like, not gonna happen, and I kind of, like, look at the pros and cons of all of it, and, also, I do wanna get bigger and, like, be better on stage. Therefore, I do have to, put on weight and this is, like, the best off season I've honestly ever had with, like, body image. I obviously am, like, a little fluffy right now, but, I've been honestly loving it, and I feel, like, so strong, so
What's been the difference where you feel like this is the best you've had mental wise? What do you think has been the change?
I honestly think it's because, like, I don't know, I kind of took, like, a step back, I think, this season and just, like, looked at it overall, like, my goal was to get my pro card. I got my pro card after only competing in one NPC show, one national show, went pro, which, like, doesn't happen really. I guess you're hearing it a little bit more now than ever, but it's very rare that you hear someone do, like, 2 shows, get their pro card, and
I'll
then,
say
like
out of the guests that I interviewed, it's less than 10% for sure.
and then I got first call out in my first IFBB pro season, so, like, like, took a step back and I'm like, I really just, like, put everything I had into bodybuilding and crushed, like, the goals I had, and I'm also like, but I also want to enjoy, like, life. I also want like, coaching bodybuilding to me is, like, even more fulfilling than doing it myself. And so this off season, I kind of put my like coaching a little bit more forefront than like my personal bodybuilding. And I feel like I didn't give myself a timeline this off season of like, oh, I have to be back on stage in 2024. Like if I have to wait till 2025 because I want to kind of just like enjoy this off season and really enjoy like the growing phase, and like I'm totally fine with it. Whereas I think every other season I've just been like so like strict with it, and it's really hard to see yourself like not be lean when you're like have such like a timeline in your head and a goal, like an end goal. So just kind of enjoy the process.
Well, first off, what was that moment like when they announced your name and you realized, oh my God, I'm a pro now? And second of all, what was that like when you also got first callouts at your first pro show?
Um, so I went into nationals. Um, I don't know. So I went into nationals kind of just being like, I'm just doing it to kind of see what the experience is like. My coach and I kind of talked, like he was obviously like super like encouraging, being like, no, you look great, and like always reinforcing that, and which was nice. But it was also like the way that we went into it was like no expectations. If I placed in the top 5, that's awesome. If I placed bottom 5, all right, then we know what we need to work on next time to get there. So going into it with no expectations, it definitely like felt great to like hear my name being like, okay, like everything we did really paid off. And then I don't know. I feel like my posing coach was always hyping me up, being like, "Oh, we're gonna have a great time in Orlando." This like I already know. So, but no, it felt like so great because I was like, okay, all this hard work paid off. Like, I think the hardest thing about nationals too is not being able to have Thanksgiving with my family. And I like remember like crying that night, being like sitting at the table eating like shredded lettuce and like ground chicken, and just being like, I just want like to have this time with my family, and like but it ended up being so worth it, and I was like, "Why did I even cry?" Like, it's so dumb, and then for the pro show, it felt really good because I did the Tampa Pro and the Texas Pro, and I was like I tripped the second I got on stage of the Tampa Pro, and just, like, immediately knew, I'm like, "Alright, I just got, like, last place." Like, I was like, "This show is a wash, like, we're put that behind us," and then I had 2 weeks to get ready for Texas, and I was like, these 2 weeks, I'm gonna literally put every ounce of my being into this show. So to make first call outs was like literally like a dream come true. And I'm like, okay, all of this work I'm putting into it is so worth it. So
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like, especially for the first pro show, because that is rare that we have people that are in first callouts at that. I mean, it's something that is incredibly rare. And when you're stepping on that stage, what is that moment like for you and you get to show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on?
yeah, I mean, I get super nervous, like, because I just like have such a high expectation for myself. I think it's not like nervous in the sense of like I'm in front of people. It's more of like I know like how hard I worked, and I like want to just like be like so perfect. So I get like backstage, I'm like so like nervous. I'm like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen. And like but I don't know. It's definitely it's a great feeling to be like get off stage and be like, I just like this is what I worked so hard for. I accomplished like my goal is just truly just be on stage and be at that point. But um yeah, I don't know. It's just it's really rewarding, and um I don't know. I feel like it's like a mixed feeling because it's like you work so hard for like this one moment, and it's like so exciting, but then it's also like it's definitely I don't know. It's a mixed feeling. I don't even know how to explain it. Like you're also like so depleted by show day that it's hard to like feel anything. I guess is kind of like what I'm thinking. Like
That's why I laugh when they try to interview these people and it's like after a show and it's like, do you realize how brain dead these people are at this moment like that? It's like give them some food first and then maybe try to talk to them.
yeah, I'm like I don't even know how to explain like the feeling of show day because it's like you are excited, but you show zero emotion, like zero. Like my coach is always like, "What's going on?" And I'm just like, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what I'm feeling right now." Like, it's excitement, but, like, I also feel, like, just so drained right now, so, yeah.
How did you deal with the extra add pressure of once you won your pro card, you're a pro now? Because so many people that I talk to, they struggle with at first just realizing that like, okay, now I'm a little fish in a big pond again.
Yeah, that was, because I went from, like, winning my class, like, for the shows I did, and, um, I feel like that was, like, the first thing that people started saying. They're like, "Alright, don't get used to this." They're like, "It's that's all over now," like, um, obviously, like, it's not like it would never happen again, but it's definitely like, okay, you're back to, like, the beginning of, like, having to work up and hit new goals, but it honestly is I try to see it as, like, motivation to, like, just keep going and push harder because, I know what I'm able to put into the sport, and obviously the sport's evolving and growing, and everyone's getting bigger and stronger, and, like, so just, like, keeping up with that, and, I don't know. I think it seemed a lot crazier, like, when I first got my pro card to, like, when I actually got on stage, and I actually noticed, like, the IFBB pros are, like, way more, like backstage is so fun. Like, backstage, like, it's not, like I felt more like competition and amateur, to be honest, and, like, NPC. Like, in Tampa, like, all of the women were like, "Oh my gosh, this is your first pro show," and, like, everyone was, like, so excited for me and, like, just was, like, very supportive and kind and nice, whereas, like, I didn't always get I mean, it was only one show I did, but, like, I didn't get that vibe there, so, like, it was a super I don't know, it was super, super cool, and it made me just excited for, like, what's to come,
I've
so
heard a similar thing to that, and I just think that everyone's just grateful that they're at the pro stage now, and they just realize, how much hard work because it's not like an amateur show. Where an amateur show, I mean, you could walk in off the street and compete in some of the amateur shows. Just you don't even really have to. But like with pros, you would put the work in, and it really clearly shows. So that's what I think too. But I ask this question to everyone. Let's be completely honest. You're not the average looking woman. If you're to walk down the street, especially when you're on prep, you are going to draw people's attention, especially being in Maine, and the fact that, it's human nature when they see something that's not the normal to just be fascinated by it. How have you dealt with it? And has it gotten easier as you've done more and more shows and continue on to this journey to realize that, like, hey, I am going to draw extra people's attention? Or are you still just like, hey, this is weird?
I got over that really quickly. I mean, there are times that are definitely uncomfortable, but, um, I throughout bodybuilding up until like, I've was a bartender,
Yeah.
at, like, a really high pace, like, busy bar, so, like, all eyes were really on me during, like, all of my preps because I like, don't tell my coach, but I definitely worked during peak week once, at the bar, but I don't know, because I, like, was prepping and working at the bar, like, I always just had people, like, commenting on my body, and especially people that have had a few drinks, they
Bro,
just
let's arm wrestle this girl. Yeah, dude, she looks
oh,
jacked. Yeah, yeah.
there's that, yeah. They well, 1, they just speak their mind, whatever they're thinking, they're gonna say out loud. 2, I've made a lot of money arm wrestling men. I had $100 minimum for arm wrestling, and I was arm wrestling
And guys would
often.
actually take that?
Yeah, often. Um, so I actually, like, have arm wrestled, like, professional wrestlers at the bar. I've done all kinds of stuff like that. I actually, we did the hurricane shot, at the bar, so I got to, like, slap a lot of people, like and they'd get all excited that they'd get to be hit by a IFBB pro, and, it was, like, a lot of bachelor parties and stuff,
Okay,
so
where is this place? So anyone else I talk to, if they're in even close to that area, they can go and you can make some easy money there, people.
yeah, it's in I'm in Portland,
Okay.
so, yeah. Portland, Maine. But, no, it was definitely so I, like, had to get used to it pretty quickly because I was like I definitely have had negative comments and positive. I would say it's, like, 98% positive in person. Online is a different story. Everyone is crazy online, but, in person, it's mostly all positive and, but even, like, little things, like I actually really enjoy it, like, small things, like, I'll go to, like, the post office or something, and they, like, remember me at the post office, and now I have these, like, little relationships, like, all over the place. So they're like, "Oh, there's that jacked girl," and then I'll, like, have, like, conversations with them, and, like, it's great. Or, like, on prep, I love to go to, like, Taco Bell to get my, like, uh, Baja Blast zero sugar or whatever, and, like, the people at Taco Bell are like, "Oh, the jacked girl's back," and, like, we just have, like, short little conversations, and I started to, like, really love it, honestly, so
There was one girl at my gym in college who I knew her name, but just on her as a contact on the phone, I just had her as Jack Girl, and she loved that. So when you said that brought that back up. But yeah, I'm shocked about how lucrative. I mean, and you are probably like the dozenth guest I've had on that does have bartending, and I will say that those people, yeah, they tend to get over it really, really quickly, because when you're dealing with drunk people, you kind of really. I do got to say though, even though they are negative and I don't like their comments, I do kind of respect the negative people who say that in public, because it takes a lot to say something negative in public. So it's like, I don't agree with you, and you might be a bad person, but hey, I respect that you're willing to say it in person as opposed to online. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, no, you gotta yeah. I try to just brush it off. I'm like, "I appreciate your feedback. It's my body, and, you don't have to do it. Like,
yeah.
I'm not forcing you to do it." So, yeah, and, like, honestly, like, the negative comments I really have been from, like, older women that are like, "Why did you do that to your body?" Or, like, so or, like, I've had, like, an older woman be like, "You're disgusting. What like, you're not a woman." And so
Jeez.
I was like, "Okay, that's your opinion.
Wait, were you
I
serving? Were you serving them?
Um, I had one comment like that when I was at Disney, right the day after
Okay.
I won my pro card, and then I had someone that I served say something like that.
Couldn't you tell them, you
Uh,
do realize that I can do anything to your drink, right? Like,
but I usually just but I'm just like, I appreciate you being honest with me, but,
yeah.
but I don't bartend anymore, luckily, so, no, it definitely I learned a lot from the service industry, but I love my sleep, and I'm very, like, grateful that I have that back now, so
What is that like? Because as you can tell, I'm still where you were a few
yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I went from, like, winning up until October, I was working I have a full-time job, bartending, and then bodybuilding, plus, like, I was coaching people, so, like, I really was just doing way too much for so long, so it's, like it's so nice to be able to, like, actually, like, enjoy, life again.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I mean, I've been going on 5.5 years of this busy life, so I don't know when the train's finally going to stop, but one can only hope. Just dealing with a lot of people too as well. A lot of people don't know how to get started working out and getting in shape. And as we are, we're still kind of close to the new year. We're still at the very tail end of January. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Kaylee, I really want to get in shape, I just don't know how, what would be the best piece of advice for them? And I know that everyone has their own individual case, but just like in general.
I mean, I am a strong believer of, like, fitness is not, like, one size fits all. I mean, that's pretty common to hear some similar to that, like, and personally, like I just said, I've CrossFit, bodybuilding, Muay Thai, jujitsu, powerlifting, like, I've tried, like, so many different things to
Please tell
find,
me
like
you incorporate Muay Thai into your figure routine, because that would be hilarious.
I uh, that it would be pretty funny. I haven't done that in a while, but for a little bit, I was really into, like, fighting, but I guess my biggest advice is to I guess I kind of have 2 things. One, like, it's okay to, like, jump around until you find, like, what doesn't feel like a chore to you. Like, once it starts to feel like this, like, isn't a hassle and I'm not like, "Ugh, I have to really go to that spin class right now," like, that's how you know it's probably not a good fit for you, but, like, something will connect at least a little bit more than everything else, and then it's just, like, forming the habit. Um, but the other piece of advice I kinda said it earlier was, group classes is, like, a really big thing, like, having a community around you that also, like, pushes you. If you are in a place, like, financially to afford group classes 'cause they're expensive, but 2, like, that you have, like, lots of options around you, like, just having other people to work out and, like, that's probably not the typical, like, bodybuilder answer, but, I do think that, like, having years of CrossFit and having so many, like, people, like, push me, like, made me so much more disciplined on my own. So, like, once you kinda get through the initial, like, forming the habit, you can kinda go out on your own and it kinda sticks, so
No, I totally agree with those. And I mean, you had me very concerned because you said that your feedback was that you can't train arms as much anymore. And that to me, just being a gym bro, that to me is the most sacrilege thing I've ever heard in my life. So, how are you dealing with that mentally, knowing that that's one of your favorite body parts to train? You can't really incorporate it as much as you would like to.
Um, I mean, I love working out and feeling strong, so it's not really, like, too big of a deal to me. I kind of I'm trying to force myself to love training legs.
Good
So
luck. Good luck.
so, like, I kind of am just like I'm just trying I'll write my, my I am statements about I am in love with training legs, or like I've been just trying to change the mindset around it and like not focusing on the things that I can't do. And like, if I really want to hit some bicep curls, I'm going to. But like I'm not gonna be like pushing them to like failure or like doing any like crazy weights. It just be like a light pump. So I can still do a little bit, and like I mean it's kind of impossible to not like hit arms at all, like with movements. So
It really isn't. I mean, with any movement that you do that really involves your hands, it's you hit even just like a tiny bit of it. But
yeah.
what is on your IM board right now? Unless you don't share it, or unless you can't share it, because I know some people think that it's sacrilege that if you share that stuff, then it doesn't become true. But what are your goals right now for yourself?
Um, my goals, I don't have a plan for getting back on stage or anything like that. My goals are really to just like focus on like growing like my coaching business. Like I'm so passionate about working with people that maybe have like a little bit of toxic relationship with food or the gym, and kind of just talking through that and figuring out the best way to like work through that, and like what the best way to like build a healthy relationship, and also like people that are just starting in bodybuilding. So I'd say like most of my like goals and like I am statements are all kind of like focused around coaching, education, like just helping other people like love fitness and bodybuilding as much as I do. So it's kind of all built around that, and less of like physical goals for my aesthetics. So
Well, in your personal case, what makes a coach a good coach? Because it differs from person to person. And with just the internet and everything like that, everyone thinks that they're a coach now a lot of times. And for all the good coaches, there's plenty more bad coaches I've found just talking to people. But in your personal case, when you're looking at a coach, what to them makes you think that they're a good coach?
I feel like there's a lot of different factors, and I definitely also believe like a I feel like you have to find someone that fits you. Like something that's really important to me and is to like when you're looking for a coach, don't be scared to ask a lot of questions. And the coach that you're hiring should be able to answer all those questions. And if they can't, then like that that's the number one red flag. If they're like not willing to like hop on a call and actually like talk to you, and like they just want to do everything like virtually, like that is another like big flag. But just like your coach should be able to explain to you like why like they're doing everything, and if there isn't a why, like that's crazy. And if there's ever like anything like you have questions about, like it shouldn't be taken offensively. If like you want to like understand, like I very much so see it as like you should be like learning from your coach almost. It's not just like uh telling me what to do with like, and I shouldn't understand anything. Like I should be like on the same, like it's my body. Like I should be like understanding everything and on the same page as you. So that's a big thing. And like I always tell people like to talk to a lot of different coaches. Don't be afraid to talk to their clients. Like any of my clients would definitely like be willing to talk to you if you had any questions about like my coaching, and maybe like my style is not your fit, which is totally cool. Like you need to find someone that's going to fit like your goals, and maybe you need someone that's going to like be really really strict with you, or maybe you need someone that's going to be like your best friend, and that's like, hey girl, no matter what, like you're awesome. Like do you missed every single day this week of your plan, so cool, whatever, like like some like it just depends on like what you're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I love that you said ask questions too, because so many people are just afraid to do that and they don't. And, they get led down, separate paths that aren't might not be as well. But speaking of social media, there's so many great things to it. I mean, I wouldn't have this podcast without it, but especially when you're a competitor, I would fall into this category 100% where I would be checking on people that I might know I might be competing against. And then obviously you can post flattering photos of yourself, like if you're in perfect lighting and good angles. And you could get depressed about that because, you might think, oh, they look incredible. I don't want to step on stage with that. Have you ever dealt with that kind of not stalking your competition, but just following them and falling into that pit hole of just comparing yourself to them too much and then just getting overwhelmed by it? Because I can guarantee that would happen to me if I competed.
Um, for sure. Definitely my first, um, like, season of bodybuilding, it was really bad. Like, I was, like, stalking, like, every single I was, like when I was doing my Stairmaster, I was just, like, scrolling on, like, Instagram, like, seeing every little thing these people are doing and was just, like, obsessing over it, and it became, like, pretty toxic, and I felt like I, like, knew exactly, like, who was gonna be on stage, like, exactly what their suit was like, I feel like I knew everything, whereas this last season, I didn't really do that at all, and it just made the experience, like, so much better. Like, I was focused solely on, like, myself and only myself, and I was really just like, I just wanna look better than the last time I was on stage, and just, like, I if anything, I stalked myself and was just like, "Okay, this is what I brought last time, what can I do better?" Which is a motivator, and it definitely, like, gets you to push a little harder on, like, cardio and, like "Oh, I definitely should do this extra posing session." 'Cause, like, posing is definitely where like, I can hit the poses, but my transitions and stuff are, like, not graceful, so that's, like, where I'm like, "Alright, we need to work on this." And I, like, watch all those videos of my old posing routines cringing, so
Yeah, and do you ever look back at old photos of yourself and just appreciate the fact that you've had such a drastic transformation? Because so many people that I talk to, they just get so used to that look that they don't go back as much as I honestly think they should, and just maybe look at old photos and just realize, wow, this is how much I've progressed. Especially in those moments when they're really feeling bad about themselves and they might be like, oh yeah, I look terrible, and it's like, well, go look at a photo of you from 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I love looking at older photos of me, like, I love my, like, Snapchat memories and Facebook memories, like, that's another thing that people are always like, "Why do you post so much?" And I'm like, a lot of times it's just, like, for myself to look back on or, like, but I don't know, I love looking at older things, I post a lot of, like, transition type videos too, just on my social media because I don't know, I like seeing it myself, and I feel like it also sometimes, like, I get a lot of good feedback from other people, about it, and I also sometimes post, like, the transition between, like, this is what I look like stage lean, and this is what I look like in my off season, and this is, like, a totally normal thing, but, um, no, I really do enjoy, like, looking back and seeing the growth because it's, like because I am so goal oriented, it's just, like, okay, like, I hit all these goals, like, and you can see the progression with my physique throughout time and, the way I train and, like, so much like, I love recording, like, videos of myself training and, like, how that's changed is, like, completely, like, a whole new game, so
That's why I always tell people document your stuff because when I was in really good shape, I only have like 2 or 3 photos of it, that was like a 6-year period for me. It went from like 18 to 24, and I'm 29 now, and I only have like 2 or 3 images to look back on. So I wish I would have documented it more, everyone. So make sure you do that while you're there. And I mean, again, Kaylee, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us. It was so wonderful to talk to you, and she told me before we started recording this is the first podcast, and honestly, I could not tell the difference, everyone. But yeah, do you have anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
oh gosh, yeah, I guess I'll shout out my coach, he, like, really inspires me, he's the one that kind of inspired me to get into coaching myself, so, really look up to him, Andrew Barry, and then, I guess, like, all of my bodybuilding friends, you're awesome, and I just appreciate you, and I guess I'll shout out my gym too, Jacked and Jilled. If you're ever in the Portland area, Jacked and Jilled is such an awesome gym, not just for bodybuilders, a lot of powerlifting, Olympic lifters, and just like lifestyle. But it's awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below, and everyone go and check her out. And again, Kaylee, cannot thank you enough for coming on. It was an absolute delight to talk to you.
thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.